Welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. This is a show all about implanting hope in our hearts. I'm Bill Snyder, joined by my friend Ann DeSantis. We're glad you're here for our uplifting conversation about faith and how it sustains our hearts through all the seasons of life. Thanks for walking with us.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. I am Bill Snyder. As you can see, I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Ann DeSantis. Ann, how are you today?
I'm great. It's so good to be back on Sowing Hope with you, Bill.
It
and
is.
With our great guest.
I know. I'm so excited for our guest, and she's certainly no stranger to the program, although it's been a little while since we've had her on, but it's great to have Donna Heckler. Let me bring her on the screen for us, and I know, Ann, you'll introduce her properly for us.
That's right, Bill. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce not only our guest, but I have to say we've had so many people on this show, but Donna's a friend too. I'm really blessed by her friendship. So Donna A. Heckler, thank you so much for being a guest on Sowing Hope.
Oh, Ann and Bill, it's always so great to see you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, we are blessed to have you here too. Now, I would love to read Donna's bio for you. Now, the name of her book that she wrote, which some of you might even remember when she was a guest on the podcast before, is called Marketing God. And Marketing God is a beautiful book that was written in 2019. It's Inspired Strategies for Building the Kingdom by Donna A. Heckler, if you want to look it up on Amazon or even go to Donna's website. So her bio is that Donna A. Heckler was a global marketing executive who has been blessed with a prominent career in the corporate sector. Recognized as a thought leader in brand and marketing strategy, she co-authored the book, The Truth About Creating Brands People Love. Donna penned the acclaimed book, Living Like a Lady When You Have Cancer, after her stage 3 cancer diagnosis. Donna is a Catholic author and speaker with a knack for insightful and engaging storytelling. So again, Donna, it's a blessing to have you here. And let's just start out with you, whatever you would like to share about yourself and your journey.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Ann. And thank you for that lovely introduction. Yes, it's been such a fascinating journey, right? I was in corporate and I was doing all this corporate work and I was working around the world. And then I had what I called my timeouts. And they're timeouts that I ended up taking with God, although I didn't necessarily understand that at the time. And those timeouts between the injured leg and then stage 3 cancer afforded me the opportunity to sit quietly with God. And it was in sitting quietly that I started to hear his voice more and more loudly, if you will. And as a result of that, things changed. I left corporate. I heard from God to write the book, Marketing God. I was following his voice and what he was asking of me every step of the way. And yet, as I was doing that, I was like, where am I headed next? What are we doing next? Why are these things happening? And, the book Marketing God is a great example. I heard the call, write this book called Marketing God while I was at Mass. So I argue with God. I'm like, well, God, my last name is Heckler. The last thing you want to do is have a Heckler write a book called Marketing God, right? But I did. I listened and I wrote that book. And 6 months after the book came out, guess what hit? COVID. And what does marketing help with? It helps bring people to you. And I found that so fascinating that God had been working in advance of when it was going to be needed. God needed the book out after COVID hit so that we could start to bring people back to the churches. And so he made sure it was written and published before that even happened. So I look back and I'm like, how fascinating this journey has been and how grateful that I've been able to, hear his voice and say yes when he taps on my shoulder.
Donna, your faith is so inspiring to me, and I know to Bill too, and your story. And this book too, I cannot recommend this book enough for anybody. You don't have to be an executive or work in corporate or anything to read this book. And the book changed my life because it was published in 2019, and it was right before the pandemic, as we know, that started in March of 2020. And so you wrote this book at the right time. And I know that one of the things that we were going to talk about during this podcast, Donna, was the fact that you wrote this book with the idea, and your subtitle, I think, says a lot too, Inspired Strategies for Building the Kingdom. Like, who would have known that when you wrote this book back then, what was going to happen, right?
Exactly.
And so I would like to ask you the question, which I think is going to take us a little bit of time to answer that question, is what do you think has happened since then? And has the church caught on since all that has happened in 2020, 2021?
So that is such a loaded question, and thank you for asking it. I think you're right. We can have such a robust conversation on this. So when COVID hit, one of the things I started to do was to write a series of white papers around things that were concerning me. So because I'm a marketer, that's what I was trained to do. We study people and we study behaviors and how decisions are made. And so I was watching everything get shut down and thinking, one of the biggest issues that marketing firms have is trying to get somebody to change a habit. So if somebody has always bought Coke, to get them to buy Pepsi is nearly impossible. So what happened? With COVID, your habit of going to church every Sunday was stopped. No longer could you go to church, right? The church is shut down. And what did people do? They started to watch Mass from their easy chair. And on the one hand, that was beautiful that at least that opportunity was available to us. But my fear as a marketer was, so what's going to happen when church is open? How are we going to get people to come back and re-engage with their parish? And why once they were staying at home, we know why, it was because of COVID, but how did that sort of drum up fears in them? Fear of being with people again, fear of being in a community. So I saw lots of things unfolding at that point in time. And I kept thinking, we're going to have to help our parishes and ministries recognize that they need to reach out to people and bring them back. And that's where the book came in. But at the same time, the parishes and the ministries, and they were struggling too, right? They didn't know what to do, and this was new, and how do we get people back? And they're afraid. They just didn't try and do new things. They ended up doing what they always had done before. And what I'm seeing now as a result of all this is that people they're not returning to church. They're not returning like they were before COVID. And we see that playing itself out. We see these various dioceses that are evaluating which parishes to close. And that to me is such a sad statement, because you can take something that's a negative like a COVID and you can turn it for the positive and use it to invite people back in. And my fear is that we missed the boat on that we just don't have enough people returning to church the way we should have. So I have no opinions on this topic. Can you tell, Ann?
No, but I think, Donna, I think there's so many people out there, pondering this question. I really do. I think there's a lot of pastors. I think there's a lot of, DREs and faith formation directors out there pondering this exact question. How do we get people, to fall in love with the product of the Catholic Mass again? Right? I mean, right. It's the greatest product on earth. So how do we get them to engage with it? How do we get them to fall back in love with it when it was so easy for such a long time to sit back on the computer like we're doing right now through a Zoom meeting and just hang out and watch Mass from the comfort of your own chair? Like, there's just really, really an issue with getting people back. And so what are some of the things that you think can lead people back? How do you market the Mass? How do you market the Mass to do that?
So let me take a step back, if that's okay, and say, why did people not feel compelled to come back? And to me, one of the things that was at issue is that people didn't really understand what made the Mass special. They didn't understand what was making our faith so unique. And that is the real presence of Christ in Holy Communion. And when we start looking at the catechesis of our people for so many years, we know many of them don't really understand this. So if that's the one piece that really makes us stand out, that we have the living presence of Christ at our Mass every time, and people don't understand that, that's a miss. So then when things close down, and they're sitting in their easy chair watching Mass, they don't recognize that they've missed anything because they never got it to begin with. But I think that's something that we're seeing a lot of right now, is that they're not coming back because they didn't understand fundamentally what the faith was all about and why going to Mass is important. So what do we do about that? I mean, certainly one of the big things, and I know that there's a lot of efforts underway right now to help people, Catholics, understand the real presence. That to me is foundational to everything, because if they don't understand why the Catholic faith and why the Mass is so critical and why Holy Communion is so critical, it is really difficult to get them to, again, change that habit, right? They have to change a habit, and you have to make it so compelling that they're willing to do that. So to me, that is one of the first things we have to do. We have to educate. We have to help them understand, and not just educate heads, but we need to educate hearts. They need to feel God within them. They need to recognize that God is there for them, and they need to feel that when they're at church. So we need to do the education part. The other piece is we need to welcome them. You know, a lot of times people will say, you don't know what to do, and I'm a little worried, and you know, it feels overwhelming. And so when you've got this habit of not going, then it becomes scary to return. So what does it look like to welcome people back? What does that look like? Well, first of all, again, it speaks to heart as opposed to brain, right? It speaks to having those one-on-one connections with the people who are coming in and reaching out to those who've not been back and saying, boy, we'd like to invite you back again. I mean, there's a whole series of things, but I'll stop there because, as we now know, I can just go on a rampage for a while. But see if that starts to get the conversation going a little.
Oh, Donna, absolutely. It gets the conversation going. And as you're speaking, I'm just thinking about what you offer in the book that you wrote. And they're truths, aren't they? They're truths. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that. But I want to mention that now, this is from the back of the book, is like, what do you say in your book that might help people? And the primer on effective marketing and communication in the context of faith includes, and this, of course, is from the book, 40 identified corporate strategies that are most critical to faith-based organizations, a no-nonsense approach to marketing, branding, and positioning your parish or organization, simple strategies you can start using today, scriptural references that help illustrate the strategies, and a handy glossary of marketing terms for the non-marketer. I love that glossary, by the way. Can I say that when you read the book too, it's just so well laid out. Like, the chapters are very easy. I don't know if people can see, like, that's one of the chapters there, the size of the print. And then the fact that at the back, there's the, the reflections you have at the back of each chapter. And so I think it's a good tool. It really is. And with everything that you're saying, we say to ourselves, like, we're talking about the Eucharist, and we're talking about going to Mass. And we say, well, how do we entice people to say, I got to stop sitting in this chair. I have to get up. I have to go to Mass. I have to get and receive the Eucharist. I'm not going to receive the Eucharist at my house,
right,
or on my phone, right? I have to actually go to church and get, and attend Mass and be a part of it.
Yes.
And so this book, I think, gives the whole idea, like, marketing God. And I know you told me that when you came up with that title, you actually had some people that questioned you on that too. But now, in retrospect, we know that you were right after this time, because we need to market God, don't we?
Well, we do. And it's funny. I'll share the story. When the title came to me, I was at Mass, and I was the first one to hate that title, because I've been in the belly of the beast. I've been in the belly of corporate marketing, and I know what it's all about. I was like, oh my gosh, God, we can't write a book called Marketing God. What are you thinking? And we always said the rosary after Mass when I was living in St. Louis. And during the rosary, the words that came to me were, if you can help people be loyal to batteries, can't you help them be loyal to me? I used to lead the marketing for Energizer. That phrase was very meaningful to me. And the role of marketing is to help develop loyalty, because when somebody is loyal, they keep going back to it. They keep doing it over and over again. So the only answer I could give God was yes. So the premise of the book is, how do we help people become loyal and become loyal to God? And what we know is that there are steps that, again, through the lens of marketing, there are steps that all people take as they go to make decisions. And that's part of what we're outlining in the book. And what I think is sad to me is that we have a lot of tools and resources out there, but a lot of the parishes and priests and whoever, either A, they don't know about it, or B, they're afraid of it, because much like me, marketing, God, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. Except I was the author, so I could defend it. But if you're not familiar with it, it can feel off-putting, right? But the idea of how do people behave, and how do we take the learnings of behavior of our audience and apply that so that we can bring them back into the parish, educate them on why it's important to go to Mass. All of those are the types of things we were covering in the book. So yeah, there's a lot that can be done. I will say the other piece to always consider is it starts with the target audience. So a parish that is made up of young families will need to do things very differently from a parish that's made up of an older elderly community. And I'm just picking on those two, but there's so many different ways that we can think about our audience. Who's coming to our Mass? Audience is a technical marketing term, but who's coming to the Mass, and how do we need to reach them in a way that will motivate them and cause them to say, I've missed this, I need to come home again.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the great things in the book too is just the resources that you provide, because there's different discussion points and there's different things that people can sit down with a parish staff and actually go through this in a book study, right? Like, you can go through this as a book study, and you can sit with your team, evangelization team, and really dig into it. Right? I mean, that's a really important thing. Like, maybe think about, if you're a parish staff, getting a copy of this book and then doing it throughout, the course of the fall or into the spring, a couple of chapters every week. And what you're going to get is, you're going to see, okay, now we've got some really practical strategies that we can build on. And the other thing, Donna, that I want to point out too, is that you have a podcast series as well on the book, on your YouTube channel, and a few other places online as well, so that people can go and not only get this book, but then beyond that, listen to you and listen to some more insights. So this is really practical stuff. Like, this is all about being practical in its application, right? Like, these are not like really far-fetched high theological issues, right? These things are really practical.
Thank you, Bill, for saying that, and for speaking about the book. I always feel a little awkward saying a whole lot, but you've opened the door, so I'm going to step in it more boldly. If you go to my website, donnaheckler.com, there's a whole section on marketing God. And in that section, I created worksheets for every single chapter of the book, every truth. And those worksheets align to the podcast that Bill just mentioned, as well as obviously to each section of the book, each truth in the book. And why does that matter? It was done intentionally so that parishes can get together with their teams. So you can read it, you can listen to it, and now you have worksheets that you can work through for your own parish on each topic. So the point is, we tried to make these tools available so that the parishes can begin to do what they need to do to get their people back in church and back into the pews. So I just offered that's all sitting there free of charge, just sitting there for you.
That's amazing, Donna. I think it's a beautiful resource. Yeah, I say it over and over again, but the book is so practical and so helpful. And as I said, it's not just about if you're in corporate or whatever. This is really for anyway. I think it's really for churches. It's super, very much that way. I do want to read the beautiful, on the back of your book, Teresa Tomeo, media expert. She said, even though we're called by Jesus himself to go out into the whole world and preach the good news, often despite the countless opportunities in today's vast media landscape, the good news doesn't get much further than the front door. That's why marketing God is so badly needed. We are, after all, the Lord's hands and feet, and marketing God can help any ministry, diocese, and individual take some major marketing steps in the right direction. Of course, I say she was a media expert, but she's also a motivational speaker, best-selling author, and syndicated Catholic talk show host of the Catholic Connection and the Catholic View for Women. That's Teresa Tomeo. And so that is a great endorsement that you got there. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, Donna, I'm also excited because you are going to be a guest also on my own program, Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis, on September 15th, 2023 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll talk about this and some other things too. You know, every time you interview somebody, you're going to get a little bit of a different scope there. And so if anybody wants to watch that, just go to my own YouTube channel, which is Ann DeSantis, and you can subscribe and then see that video either on or after. The video is going to be there no matter what, you know. But I'm excited also to have you on the Journeys in Faith program. So is there anything that's going on with you coming up maybe in 2023, 2024 that you want to share, things that are happening in your personal life or even with your writing or anything?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thank you for asking. Yeah, you know, there's been a lot going on. Certainly, I've been doing a lot of writing. We have a few different books that I'm working on right now, and I'm not exactly sure which one's going to come out of the hopper first. So I can't tell you exactly which one will be published next, but there's a few things that we're working on, all faith-based. And there is a pretty significant project that I'm being tapped to work on, and it's a project that's designed to assist Catholic authors and scholars. So it's just, we're just beginning to work it all out. I'll be leading that probably starting in the next several months. So I'm really excited for that. But I can't say a whole lot yet. It's still all very confidential. But my hope is once I'm able to release it, that I can let you guys know and come back and I can share what we're doing. I think it'll be something that many of the authors and scholars, Catholic authors and scholars who are looking to really deepen their faith and do more in their faith will love being a part of. So that's the exciting one, and yet I can't say much about it. So that's sort of a bummer, but it'll come. It'll come.
You're welcome anytime to come on back and release it to our audience. Yeah, absolutely, Donna.
Yes, we love having you on, Donna. Like I said, I really meant that at the beginning, that you've become a good friend of myself and Bill, and we love hosting you. We love catching up with you, and we love to help spread your message, your positive, be radiant message. And I also have to say that if people want to learn more in terms of watching some more of those podcasts, definitely subscribe to your YouTube channel, Donna A. Heckler, Be Radiant. Mm-hmm. And also you can watch some of those previous episodes that we did with you for Sowing Hope on the Patchwork Heart Ministry YouTube. Please subscribe. Mm-hmm. And even the Journeys in Faith program that I do and have done with you before.
Yeah.
So
I feel the same way. I mean, one of the beautiful parts about this path is that you get to meet really amazing people, right? And you and Bill have become such good friends, and yet it's always on Zoom and it's always by phone, but we start from a place of values and we start from a place of faith, and these most amazing friendships form as a result of that. And so I'm just very grateful for your friendship and your kindness and for all that you're doing for our faith community. It really is important work. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh, it means so much.
Absolutely. No, it really is. It really does mean so much. Donna, any last words, anything that you want to maybe leave the listener with? We never know who's listening, but pastors or DREs, DYMs that are listening to this, going, hey, you know what? maybe give them a shot in the arm, especially at the beginning of the school year, beginning of their academic year. Give them a little shot in their arm about, enlivening their parish and all of that as we kind of wrap up the episode.
Sure, absolutely. The thing that's coming to mind, and it's something that I tend to preach on, but I think it's worth preaching about, and that is that, I talk in the book and I talk through podcasts about brands. And the question is, what's a brand? And a brand is a promise, very simply. When I was at Energizer, it was the promise of Energizer that it would be long lasting, right? The thing I would leave you with is, what's the promise of your parish? What are you promising to those who are coming? And as you think about that promise, and there are two parts, how are you getting the word out about that promise? And are you delivering on it? So if you think that you want your promise to be a place where people of faith come together and enjoy and seek God in a combined way, obviously making this up on the fly, then ask yourself, if that's who you are and that's what you're promising, are people feeling like they are coming together? Are they able to meet each other? Are they able to talk faith with each other? Are they able to see this promise in action? Are they deepening their faith every time they step into the parish? The point of it is, think about who you are as a parish, as a promise. And what's that promise that you're making to your community? And then ask yourself, how are you delivering on that promise? Maybe this is the year that you come up with some different things in different ways to make sure that you deliver on that promise for your people every time they step into church.
Great message, Donna. Folks,
Yes.
I do encourage you to go and get the book, Marketing God. It's available anywhere, it's found, but support the local Catholic bookstores, right? And also, Donna, it's available on your website too. Give that website one more time.
Oh, the website is Donna A. Heckler. So there's two A's in the middle there. Donna, A again, Heckler.com.
Awesome.
So we look forward to seeing you there.
Donna,
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate both of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, folks, please go on to our YouTube channel as you're watching this and click that subscribe button right now so that you can get more great programs from us and all of us here at Patchwork Heart Ministry. Thank you for tuning in and watching to this program. Until next time, may God bless you and keep beating to those Catholic hearts.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Sowing Hope on Patchwork Heart Radio. For more information about this podcast and our ministries, visit our websites, patchworkheart.org and andesantis.com. You can also follow and interact with us on Twitter at PWH Ministry or Andy Santis 2.